So they talk a little bit about the chord progressions. The effect of regularly occurring harmonic progressions is minimized in this composition. The reasons are as follows. The actual progressions occur at widely spaced intervals, at least 2 measures. So they're really spaced out. And in one instance at a distance of 13 measures. So you would say probably not very functional harmony. And the harmonic rhythm is extremely slow. Some of the harmonic progressions contain chords whose roots lie in third relationship to each other. When the thirds are ascending, the harmonic strength is weakened considerably. All right, so they say, didn't really find any strong chord progressions, and that's okay. And then they find the cadences, which I suggest always, 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 when you're trying to find the cadence, you'll hear the cadence before you see the cadence in a piece like this. So listen to it, listen to it, listen to it with the score, and then mark off those places where it sounds like there's a cadence. And then start picking them apart and see what you can find. So measure 27-28, they found an authentic cadence, an implied 5 to 1. 39-40, there's a linear parallel motion cadence. So with the C, the one pedal. 64-66, there's actually a half cadence. So 5-7 to 5-7. 5-7-5 to 5-7, and then 86-89, there's an authentic cadence. So I would definitely, these will jump out at you when you listen to it. They break down the melodic material. So they go through and they talk about the tonality, the chord progressions, the cadences, any melodic material they find. Right? So the melodic material is quite similar throughout the work. There's a prominent 3-note motive that appears in various guises. So this, they're talking about this. So ya-da-dee, ya-da-da, ya-da-da, ya-da-da. And these are all the iterations of this little 3-note figure that keeps popping up, right? So the similarity of the melodic material creates an organic unity that ties the work together. All right, then they go on and they discuss the meter and the rhythm of the piece and how that affects it. So this meter, 6/4 equals 3/2, indicated at the beginning of the composition, is normally interpreted to mean that the quarter note values remain fixed and that in some measures they'll be grouped in doubles, duples, and others as triples. So sometimes they'll be duples, sometimes so they'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Other times they'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what they mean by it being grouped differently. However, in his own performance of this work, Debussy played in a fashion that would indicate the following. So quarter note in 6/4 meter equals a half note in 3/2. So because the meter vacillates somewhat between groupings of 2 and groupings of 3, the rhythm, although interesting and diverse, is not stressed. So it's sort of obscured. In its subtler aspects, however, rhythm plays a role as part of the total color of the work. So the overall pace and slowness and, adds to that color. Then they discuss the texture. So how thickly composed or thinly composed is the piece. So the texture of this composition is the antithesis of polyphony, with numerous pedal tones and the parallel movement of the chords. Conflict of opposing melodies is almost totally absent. The motion is predominantly parallel or oblique, right? So it's always moving in parallel motion, right? It's not moving in contrary motion. And then the overall form, and this you may have to look and look into what the composer actually said about it. So in this case, they did a little research, and they basically came up with a quote from Debussy saying, "I am more and more convinced that music is not in essence a thing that can be cast into traditional and fixed form. It's made up of colors and rhythms. So any attempt to cast this music into traditional form would seem doomed to failure." So it's not going to fall into a nice binary form or sonata form, or rondo form, and any attempt to do it is completely pointless because Debussy never intended it to be that way. So you could say that this work is probably through composed. But they say that nevertheless, Several points within the work seem to be the beginnings of important statements or seem to contrast in one way or another with previous sections. So they are pointing out places where, there are either similarities or contrasts with the melody and harmony. So the following table lists these points and musical elements that support the perception of the beginning of a statement. So beginning of the work is the beginning. So yeah, that's one statement. And then they say in measure 16, there's a new accompaniment texture, and the tonal center shifts to B. 28, there's a strong cadence. 47, the tonal center G sharp. In the previous passage is transitional. 72, there's a return to C, right? So a general return to C. 84, the eighth note accompaniment texture is replaced by quarter note motion, so the overall harmonic rhythm slows down. So you could say it is clear that articulation point 6 is like number 1. So they pointed out some articulation points, right? And so they're saying that A is its own thing, but then articulation point 2, A prime and A double prime, very similar, and B, B, and C. So this little section mirrors each other. So some theorists, they did a little research and they said this has led at least one theorist to see an arch form. So this would be considered an arch form. So A, B, C, B, A. So it makes a little arch theoretically, in which the second part of the work represents a mirror image of the first part. So you could call it arch form, or you could call it through composed. You could make a lot of arguments for what it is. So, and then they just sort of wrap it up. So what I want you guys to do this week is to take on assignment 15.2 and do something similar. So we're going to analyze it, first of all, and then do a little write-up based on what you read back here in this analysis. So find the points and you're going to take a few of these points. I say take 5, all right? So either discuss the tonality, chord progression, cadences, melodic material, meter and rhythm of the piece, texture, or form. All right, so pick 5 of those and do a little write-up, just sort of describing it. And I'm going to get you started. So if we look at the overall, and I would start sort of just blocking chords out before you determine any sort of tonality for the piece, which I'm not necessarily going to hand over to you right away. So let's look at this first chord and see how it's blocked up. So we have a D and an A, D, A, D, D. So I'm going to call that a D with an omitted 3. So omit 3, just like that. So somewhat clear. As far as our theoretical key goes, we've got a B flat, so that could either be some sort of like F major, maybe. It could be D minor, maybe. I don't know. It could be some other modal thing. It could be pentatonic. We just have to see. So if we look here, our next chord, we've got C, G, and B. We've got our E here. So we've actually got a full chord, C, E, G, B natural. So we'll call that, so it's a major 7th chord, so C major 7, just like that. Right? And then our next chord, if we look here, we've got B flat and F. So B flat, D, oh wait, that's not a D. B flat, F, A flat, C, and here's our D. So we've got B flat, D, F, A flat, C. So that's going to end up being a B flat ninth. And we'll call it B flat major ninth because we go from B flat to D natural, so major third. Right? And then if we look at our next chord, oh, what do you say? It's exactly like our second chord. So C major 7. And then our next measure, it's an exact copy, minus the vocal part, but the vocal part's essentially carrying on the same thing. It's going to be, you've got the same set of chords. So you've got D, omit 3, C major 7, B flat 9, and then again C major 7, just like that. And then our next chord, check it out, same as our D omit 3, and then our final chord, same as C major 7. All right, so it's your job to go through, analyze the rest of this. It just goes to the end of this page. It's really not too bad. Come up with a little write-up about it. Determine what the tonality is. See if you can actually analyze it in Roman numeral analysis. You may or may not be able to. And yeah, good luck. I'll see you guys next week.